Retention is one of those numbers that you're going to use to understand where your thresholds of plateauing are. A lot of the things I hear is, gosh, I've been stuck at, 300 students, 500 students. And so you've reached this plateau and you don't really understand why you've reached this plateau. But what retention does is it allows you to understand why that's happening and create a plan to break through that plateau. It's also going to answer the question how much marketing you need to do to break through that plateau. So how do you get beyond that plateau? How do you bust through those numbers? You have to raise the intensity of your enrollment efforts. You can't rely just on word of mouth and working with the school systems and maybe some community events. And you're going to have to actually put some money out there depending on the scale and size and your community, of course. So the first one that we want to track is as a percentage of total enrollments. Okay, now this is the one that's most common within your CRMs, whether that's Jackrabbit, iClass, Studio Director. The most common is what's the percentage of retention? Okay, meaning I retain 90% month to month, session to session. But let's like pull the veil back on that number, because if we're talking about, hey, I retain 90%, on the surface, that sounds great. Like a 90% retention is awesome, but it inherently has a trap door in it, if you will. Here's what I mean, 90% retention. Now let's break this down into actual reality of how the math works, okay? If you're running 100 students a month and your retention is 90%, that means that month to month, you're going to retain 90 of that 100. Pretty simple, right? So that means to maintain 100 students month to month, you have to add 10. You have to add 10 to stay the same. Now, not grow. You just have to add 10 new students every single month to maintain a number of 100 students at a 90% retention. But as we go up at 500 students, a 90% retention means that you now have to acquire 50 students every single month. Okay, so the amount of marketing that you had to do at 100 to get 10 and the amount of marketing that you had to do at 500 to get 50, that's 5x. It's quite a bit different. If you're at 500 students and you're not acquiring an average of 50 new students every single month, you're going backwards. And that's where you'll see people that ballooned to 600. Like, for example, we've got an Olympics coming up. And even if you don't do marketing, you're going to see your numbers go up because interest goes up. The problem is that you don't adjust your marketing to maintain that. Now, all we're talking about is maintaining. We're not talking about growth. Now, if you want to grow at 1,000 students and you want to grow to 1,500, you need to start adding more than 100 students every single month. And that number is going to have to continue to grow because if you go from 100 to 110 students a month and you're at 90% retention, you're going to get to 1,100, but you won't get beyond. This is why understanding what your retention number is vitally important to connecting the dots with how much marketing, what the intensity of enrollments, the enrollment efforts coming in need to be.